Good evening, campers, and welcome back to Elite Dangerous. I'm Commander Exorcist, and welcome to the second of two videos that I'm publishing today in reference to the most recent Frontier Unlocked live stream. The first one was the Cobra Mark V reveal and talked a little bit more about the internals for that ship and some of the expectations that it's a small ship at this point versus the medium. But in addition to the Cobra, we got probably the biggest deep dive of any feature that we've got this year, including the power play stuff. We got a huge deep dive on the system colonization update that is coming. Now, before I get started, just to say that it was promised this year. It has been delayed to the first part, or kind of the early next year. And we'll talk a little bit more about that when I get into the specifics about it. But given the scope and size of this kind of update and what this brings to the galaxy, I think that it's pretty obvious why it's been delayed. And a delayed product is always better than a broken one. So in this video, we're going to go over system colonization. I'm going to go through some of the key points. There's a lot of them in this video, so sit back and kind of enjoy. This is my perspective, and I got this information a few minutes before Frontier went live with it, so I'm a little bit behind other content creators because I got it while I was at work, but I'm working to get this out, and this is kind of my perspective on what I think system colonization is going to bring to the Elite Dangerous Galaxy. But before we get started with that, we're going to talk a little bit about what has happened over the last year in Elite Dangerous, because they interviewed the game director for Elite, and a lot of the stuff that he said, it really brings home a lot of what's happened this year with Elite Dangerous and how this has been a banner year for the game. I mean, we have seen 4 brand new ships introduced to the game. Power Play's been completely redesigned, and not only has Power Play been redesigned, but it went from like this niche activity in Elite to being this huge thing. I'm making videos on this channel, and a lot of the comments are, who are you pledged to, and how does this affect Power Play? I mean, it's become such a core part of the experience in Elite. So that's really awesome to see such kind of a maligned feature get revamped in a way that has really pulled players in and made it exciting again. So definitely like that. They did talk about Titan Cosijo, as I call it, Titan Kokomo. It is the final Titan. But there have been major hints, and not just from the live stream, but through Galnet and other things. If you've seen Taco Tuesday, there's a couple of things they're talking about how there's this kind of hint that Cosijo might not be what it seems, in terms of we may not get to destroy Cosijo like we have the other 7 Titans that we have, or something. But there was a comment that they made where potentially, Cosijo could just pack its stuff and run away. What if it runs away and brings more, or what if it goes somewhere else or does something? And I have to say that at this point, it's pretty obvious something is wrong with Cosijo. And I would not expect us to be able to roll in and just take it out just like we have with the other Titans. Now, if we do, that's great. But even if we manage to get in and take it out like we did the other Titans, I think that we're going to see some kind of Thargoid retribution on the scale of, say, like the Salvation, they hit 22460 attacks. I think we're definitely going to see something along those lines. So it's definitely worth considering that Cosijo is definitely not going to be the end. And Arthur hinted at that big time with a mic drop at the end of the live stream, talking about how if you think the Thargoid War is over, it is not. The Thargoid War is 2 years old at this point. It's hard to believe it's been that long, but I mean, we've been through so much. We had kind of a year where we weren't able to do anything against the Titans, working our way up, learning the systems, and then eventually be able to get in there and take out the different Titans. And so we're down to Cosijo as the last one. So one of the things that is really exciting for me when talking about the system colonization features is how they approach it. You can hear the way the developers are talking and the way that they interact with the community and the forums and online when it comes to the system colonization, about how The bubble has been static for 10 years. We've gotten to know these systems and all these worlds, and it's like they're opening up the developer tools to the community. And so it's like, well, the game's been this way for like 10 years. We're to breathe new life in it. Instead of the developers going out and saying, "Hey, we're going to redesign the galaxy," why don't we just give that to the players? And so that's really what this is. And so what we got is Power Play is the first step in a greater effort for players to start to shape and affect the galaxy. We are going to start building our own starports, our own surface ports. We're going to start building our own economies. We are finally going to stretch the bubble out as far as we possibly can. And that really seems to be the vision for Elite Dangerous going forward, is more of a player-driven world where we can actually affect real change. And so, when somebody complains that there's no real consequence, or there's no in-game consequence for their actions beyond, say, collecting a bounty, that's all about to change. All of that is about to change. And let's take a look. So first thing they talked about is Power Play. Power Play is kind of like the foundational part of this. I think what I'm thinking now is Power Play was a test bed and is a test bed for some of these systems. I think that they were talking about how Power Play and Colonization is going to be heavily linked to each other. But one of the things that he did mention, and I want to mention this too, and I really want to emphasize this as part of kind of my view on Power Play. I haven't done a lot of content on Power Play. One, because I don't participate in it, and two, because I kind of just like to watch it. But they are continuing to balance out Power Play. This is a brand new system. The system is only a couple of weeks old. There have been some exploits already determined. There's YouTube videos out there with thousands and thousands of views of exploits of people learning how to rank up really quickly, and those are getting cut off, and people are getting upset because this path is blocked, and then this path is open, and they're chasing the quickest way to earn merits and credits and rank and all this stuff. And ultimately, Frontier's vision for this is there's no golden pathway, okay? Their idea is that there's not a particular star system you can go to, or a platform or an outpost or a station that you can go to that will help you earn that rank any higher than others. They want people to play the game, but they also want to be mindful of players' time. And so that's one of the reasons, and this is so great to hear this finally articulated, that they've eliminated a lot of what we consider the grind, especially with engineers over the last year. So a lot of the things that have really kept people at bay, kept people from getting involved, say engineers. Like, I know people that will not touch engineering at all until this year, when they made it a little bit easier for everybody. I'll say a lot easier. And now they're engineering everything they own. And I'm able to engineer a lot of things that I didn't really want to go touch because I knew just how much was involved with it. And so the developers are really looking at the gameplay and opening up the game in ways that offer additional opportunities to players in a way that respects their time. And that is so awesome to hear, because the developers are trying to find a balance between getting people to play the game, because that's what we want. We want people to actually come in and play Elite, but we also want people to play it and be rewarded in a way that they feel that they earned the reward and that they didn't have to overdo it. You don't want to have to raid a settlement 20 times to get 14 weapons components. Okay, that's not the kind of stuff they're looking for. Or that's not the kind of stuff players are looking for. But that's the stuff that Frontier's looking at. Trying to find ways to eliminate a lot of that unnecessary repetitiveness, that unnecessary grind that over time, kind of really tears people down. The SCO is a perfect example of that. I use an SCO on pretty much every ship now, except the Nightwish, because it's been too far away to be able to put one on it. But every ship I fly that is not the Nightwish has an SCO drive on it. And for me, one of the best features of the SCO is being able to SCO away from a planet. When I'm leaving an atmosphere, I don't have to wait on the whole system to spool up. I can hit my SCO drive and boom, I am out and away from that body, and I am ready to jump to the next system. And so the SCO drive is exactly part of this process. Yeah, it's great. It's a cool feature, helps us get places faster, but it's also part of the developer's commitment to giving us a lot of our time back. I have saved so much time with the SCO drive on different planets and stuff. So now, and as we get into talking real quick, and we're going to get to it here, so as we get into talking about system colonization, I have the video graphics that Frontier showed on the live stream. Occasionally I'll loop those over this video so that you can kind of, if you didn't see it, so that you can kind of get an idea of what some of this stuff is going to look like. Now, colonization gives keys back of the galaxy back to the players. Like I said, we're going to get to control how the galaxy functions and how it looks. So how does this work? So it was very, very good about how they just laid this out. So I'm going to go through the steps about how this actually works. So you know where we have like a system administrator, and you have interstellar factors, you have your combat bonds communication, those folks. So all of those contacts that you have at a station, well, you're going to get a new type of contact called a colonization contact. And this is a person that you will be able to purchase a claim on a star system. So you're purchasing a claim. You're not purchasing the star system. It's very important. These are terms that we have to start learning in order to make this system function appropriately. So you purchase a claim to a star system, and currently, at least, and they talked about it's a work in progress. Currently, that claim is limited to like a 10 light year radius around that administrator. And so what'll happen is you'll purchase a claim, and that administrator will launch a colonization beacon to that star system. That is a nav beacon, okay? But before the system is colonized, it's a colonization beacon. This is your flag. This is your stake claim on that system. And in order to keep people from, say, purchasing a bunch of star systems and never doing anything with them, you have 24 hours to get out and stake your claim and begin the colonization process, or the beacon is gone and the system will be open for somebody else to colonize. I really like that because that's one of the considerations. One of the things I had worried about is, I know space is big. There's hundreds and thousands and billions of star systems out there, but there's going to come a point where two players are going to want the same star system, and how does that work? So I think this is one of the ways that will prevent people from, say, if I don't have enough money at the moment, I can't lock off 12 different star systems because one day I might get to them. No, if you don't have the correct amount of credits and the right materials, you are not going to be able to colonize a system, and you're not going to be able to lock it off from everybody else. So what happens next is, after the nav beacon is set, you'll be able to establish a primary starport. This will always be in space, so you have to have a primary starport. It says that they said the location is predetermined. I'm not happy with that because I like the idea of being able to put my primary station wherever I want, but it's probably has to do with how the Stellar Forge builds star systems. I'm willing to bet there's gravity concerns and other things. So you'll have a primary starport. Now, they mentioned it could be any type, so I don't know. Can we build our own Coriolis? That would be cool. But you definitely will be building a space-based asset to begin with. That is how you stake your claim. Now, once you've built your space-based asset, your starport, a colonization ship will enter the system. This is one of the biggest ships ever built in Elite Dangerous. When you see it, it's pretty much a rearrangement and reusage of the fleet carrier assets. It's got a massive set of large landing pads, and so that is that's how stuff gets to your system. So nav beacon, starport, and colonization ship. That ship, its responsibility lore-wise, and I liked that they were talking about this. This is all built into the lore of the game, is building materials, gathering materials, because you're going to need a lot of credits and you're going to need a lot of materials to get this stuff done. This is not going to be cheap. And they're going to require, and so each station that you build is going to require materials consistent with whatever type of station you're building. So let's say you're building a pleasure palace of some kind. You're going to need a lot of alcohol. You're going to need consumer goods. You're going to need luxury items. If you're building an industrial center, you're going to need metals. You're going to need circuit boards. And guess where you would get that kind of stuff? On foot settlements. That's right. There's other places in the galaxy that you would go and get those places. You can buy them on the commodity market, but there's a lot of materials that have been stashed in lockers for years in Elite Dangerous Odyssey that have not been used, and all of a sudden it's looking like a lot of that stuff might actually come into use because we've got building schematics, suit schematics, we've got all kinds of compressed gases, we've got aerogels and other weird stuff and just junk that's piled up in these lockers that when you pick it up, it says irrelevant material in the ED materials helper. You can sell it for money, but it looks like now a lot of that stuff might come in handy for construction of your new starport and facilities. The cool thing is that this can really be a community effort. So let's say you're part of a faction and you're going to build a new station. Well, you're not on your own. Other commanders can come in and contribute to building that. I would like to see, they didn't say this, but I'd like to see some kind of a bonus. It would be nice because I'd happily deliver materials to a station that is under construction if I get some kind of bonus for it. And so let's move on. So stations that are under construction will appear as abandoned starports. So the Odyssey starports that you walk in with the concourses, basically you're going to have that, like the bar that's set up here in the background. It'll be that, but it'll be abandoned. There'll be nobody around, and everything will say like system limitations, units being deployed and stuff like that. And so it'll be like a fleet carrier when you start it up, like a decommission of a fleet carrier. When you do it, it doesn't actually start or it doesn't actually happen until you get to the server tick on Thursday. So if you start building your starport and you've got all your materials ready to go, it's going to appear as kind of an inactive location until Thursday when the server ticks back over and everything kind of starts up. And then your colonization ship, that big behemoth, it'll disappear once your station is online. And that's actually, that's consistent with like sci-fi lore. Basically, you have a colonization ship comes in and helps deliver materials and then ultimately is dismantled to become, say, the city center or the actual starport that you're building yourself. There will be primary establishment costs, so look for credits and look for materials requirements for costs after stations come online. So like fleet carriers have upkeep costs. I wouldn't be surprised if your stations have upkeep costs as well, and pretty significant ones. I'm sure that you can make a lot of that money, say with the bartenders or other means, but don't look for this stuff to be free. And they did talk the nav beacons. Once your colonization is started and you've established your starport and you become the owner of that system, the colonization beacon becomes a nav beacon. So they, in a way, kind of explained the history of the nav beacons. Those are colonization points. That's where the colonization process was started. And let's see here. So like I said, it's not a small feat. This is not something that this is not something for newbies. This is not something you're going to jump into Elite Dangerous, play for 6 hours, and be able to afford. And so it is very important that people be realistic about this this particular feature. This is post-fleet carrier work. This is for people who have a fleet carrier plus 10 to 15 billion credits sitting around doing nothing. And it's going to be a credit sink. It's going to be a material sink, but this is an actual thing that you can do. Like this city that's behind me with the bar, it'd be awesome to have one of those that's mine, that I built. I'm excited about that. And so, yeah, it's no small feat. And they were really hard on that to let people know this is not a small project. This is not something you're going to start, spend 20 minutes on, and go away. This is something that's going to require significant time and money and resources to get off the ground. But once you do, oh my God, it's going to be so freaking cool. It'll be launching into beta next year and early next year, and it will be for everybody. So you don't have to pay extra to get into the beta. Every player is going to be able to get into the beta for Colonization and be able to provide information to Frontier on how it's working. Let's talk a little bit about kind of the construction of the star systems and how this is laid out. This is not based on your faction, your pledged power, BGS, or anything like that. This is about you as the player. Colonization is a system architect thing. And so, you know, if you belong to a faction, if you belong to BGS, if you're working that kind of stuff, you know, you can bring that influence and that power into your system. But your BGS faction does not, quote unquote, own those resources. You own those resources. So even if the quote unquote controlling faction changes hands, you are still the system architect in that system. So you don't have to worry about losing your star system because some hostile force comes in and some BGS work starts. You may lose your faction influence, but you're not going to lose control of your system. So you're not going to lose the ability to modify your starports or build new ones or whatever. And as far as building starports, basically what's going to happen is once you've established your starport, your central starport, you're going to have slots. So you're going to have several slots for space-based, and then you're going to have slots to, and I say slots, it's not slots. These surface ones are the coolest because that is basically Planet Coaster in Elite Dangerous. You're going to be able to just plop down those assets, any asset that is built from Horizons through Odyssey, down on the ground, and build those stations. Find yourself a nice mountainside vista on some atmospheric world somewhere, plop down a skyscraper and a bunch of on-foot Odyssey settlements, and make just a thriving metropolis of your choosing. That's cool. I'm really excited about that one. I can't wait to see more about how that works and the economics of such a venture. But they showed a couple of examples with containers that were sitting on the ground as the stations are being built and stuff like that. It looks like it kind of looks like they're just opening up some of the developer tools to the community. And one of the ways that they're doing that is through progressive unlocking of different resource generation locations. So like if you need industrial support for your system, you're not going to get industrial support until you build an industrial station and unlock that resource and that feature. And so building these new features facilities unlock different economic functions. So if you want the higher level, larger stations, you're going to have to build some of the smaller ones to allow yourself to kind of build up, almost like a Sim City. I mean, it really is turning into kind of a grand strategy game. It's like a 3D space MMO with grand strategy aspects to it. It's just really, if they can pull it off, it's going to be an unreal feature to take part in. And I'm really excited about what we're going to do with it as a community, because as they keep harping in the video or on the live stream, is they build these systems and we never do anything with them like they want. They're like, oh, we're going to build this system and this is what you're going to do with it. We don't do that. Elite Dangerous players, we find our own way. We find our own way to do things. So yeah. Like I said, players will pick the locations of the ground installations, and then the ground installations. This is just kind of a recap of what I've already talked about. And then the BGS and powers will change in the system. But again, this is about the architect. This is not about your faction. This is about, you can get your faction together to help you, but you're not going to have a faction that's purchasing a star system. It is the commander themselves that is the system architect. You are not commander so-and-so. You are architect so-and-so. building a new world. And that's it, my friends. That's a lot of information. But hey, these are the disciples. If you'd like to support my work, like the video, subscribe to the channel, go to patreon.com/Commander Exorcist to pledge your support. I would love to have it. That was an amazing year for Elite Dangerous. I mean, what a way to end it with just this hard-hitting 1-2 punch of the colonization and the Cobra, and then all the ships and all the stuff that we've had throughout the year. It feels nice to be spoiled for once and not feel like we have to claw through the sand. This year we ate really well as a community. System colonization, there's a lot of questions that still need to be answered. There's a lot of things that need to be considered, especially with conflict between two commanders and two players and vying for locations and encroachment and things like that. There's also some concerns, some legitimate concerns in the community about the 10 light year limit. ARF did say that they are looking at that right now that looks to be like a work in progress zone that I would expect either will expand in the future or will give us options to expand it through whatever means that we're able to come up with. So yeah, it's going to be quite a ride. You should see the release of the Cobra Mark V on December 10th and the release of System Colonization early next year into beta so that we can provide Frontier some information on that. So, and that's going to be it for this one. It's been quite a day, everybody, and I'm very excited for what is to come for our game. I'm Commander Exorcist. Take care, fly safe, and I will see you out there. Good night, everybody.